Foods to eat to help you recover from a stroke. Coming up. Hi everyone, this is Ernesto from Attaboy Cowboy, and on this channel we give you health and wealth tips to help you be more successful. Now in today's video I'm going to talk about foods that you can eat to help you with stroke recovery. And I'm bringing you this video today from Monument Valley, Utah with my mom.
Hello.
Mom's over here. So I want to talk about stroke rehab because we just saw one of our relatives that had a stroke, and I was going over some ideas with him of things that he can eat to help him recover. Now the interesting thing is that you can eat these foods to address just about any type of cognitive problem, or if you just want to make your brain stronger, make you smarter, faster, think clearer, their strategies are the same. So first, let's talk a little bit about stroke. What is a stroke? Well, there's two types, and there's a variety of how profound the stroke is. The first type of stroke is a hemorrhagic stroke, and it's basically a type of bleeding stroke where a vessel bursts in your brain, and that doesn't allow for oxygen or nutrients to flow through and feed the tissue beyond it. So when that happens, right away the brain tissue starts to die. So remember, your brain tissue will die after 5 minutes of not getting enough oxygen. So it's vital when you have a stroke or you think you're having a stroke to go to the hospital right away so they can stop that bleeding and get you oxygen to your brain so you don't sustain brain damage. And it'll help negate a lot of the effects of the stroke. Sometimes when people take a long time or they think about it, they're not sure if they want to go to the hospital, they actually do a lot of damage to themselves, and they end up with permanent brain damage because they delayed in going to the hospital. So that's the first type of stroke. The second type of stroke is where you have a blockage. Basically, you have high cholesterol or you have plaque in your system. It builds up, and sometimes it dislodges and blocks the vessel. So again, oxygen and nutrients is not flowing through, and it's not feeding that tissue in the brain, so the tissue starts to die. Now, what happens exactly if you think about your brain? If it's like a melon, each part of that brain contains a different part of your body, and it has different purposes. So depending on what part of the brain is damaged, that's the type of damage you're going to sustain. It could be sensory, it could be motor, it could be cognition, it can be like your hearing, your sight, your taste, your touch, your smell, everything. So that's a different video. That's a lot of different aspects of how your brain is damaged, but we're going to focus on what you can eat to help you recover. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're helping your brain produce enough BDNF. BDNF is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's a long name. And basically it's fertilizer for the brain. It helps with neurogenesis. So your brain is always producing and repairing the neurons in it, and it needs this BDNF to help them grow. So I want you to think about your brain as like a fishing net. If all the mesh is together, you're going to catch fish and no problems. But after you have a stroke, it basically makes a big hole in that net so the fish can swim right through. So after you're born, you're never going to make another neuron in your brain. Whatever you're born with is what you're going to have for the rest of your life. In fact, the moment you're born, the neurons in your brain start dying off, and they continue to die to the day that you die as an adult when you're 80 or 90 years old. The issue is that those neurons that you have get bigger and stronger, much more productive. So luckily you have something in your brain called neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is a production of neurons, but neuroplasticity is helping your brain kind of readjust to the damage it may have sustained. So think back to that fishing net again. If you got a big hole in it, it's not going to make new neurons. But what it's going to do, it's going to allow for those tails, the little tails on the nerves, to get longer and bridge over the gaps and basically close off that hole so that there's communication in your brain, or in the sense of the fishing net, so the fish can't get through. So it's important that you help promote this neuroplasticity. The more you stimulate your brain with activities and doing rehab and exercises and and listen to music, etc., the more you're going to have that neurogenesis going on in your brain, bridging over those gaps and helping reconnect parts of your brain so there's communication again. So that's the key. So how are you going to help promote this BDNF? Well, you want to make sure that you're eating things that are good. So if you think about your brain, if you've ever seen a cow brain, it's mostly fat. It's not like muscle. So muscle eats protein, but brains eat fat. So you want to make sure you're giving your brain lots of fat. Give it oils. You want to make sure you're giving it olive oil every day. Put it in your salads, put it on your food. Fresh olive oil, not cooked. Don't want to cook olive oil because it starts to denature. And then it actually becomes toxic for your body and your brain. And again, this goes for everybody. This is not just for stroke patients. So you want to make sure you're eating olive oil raw and make sure that it's extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. That's actually the best quality olive oil. If you're cooking, you're going to use avocado oil or you're going to use coconut oil. Those are probably my two favorite oils you're going to use for cooking. Avoid all the other vegetable oils. Those are toxic for your brain, for your body, cold or hot. So just avoid them. And that includes corn oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, all the other types of oils you find in the market that are manufactured and highly processed. They have a lot of chemicals in them. They're not good for your brain. So again, you want to eat lots of oil, and then make sure you're eating lots of berries. Berries are great because they're low glycemic index, but they have a lot of antioxidants and they have a lot of benefits for your brain. In fact, if you eat at least once a week, like strawberries, it's going to help the vessels in your brain vasodilate, which means they're going to help open up. It's going to help oxygen and nutrients get into your brain much easier to help with healing. That helps boost your memory, helps boost your cognition. That's a lot of benefits. So I like to have at least a half a cup to a cup a day of mixed berries. Berries are really good for you. The second thing you want to eat are lots of seeds, like flax seeds. They have a lot of alpha linoleic acid, which is really good for your brain. Again, they're fats that your brain can feed on. It's going to help with that neuroplasticity, that neurogenesis. It's going to help your brain regenerate. And again, you want to eat these things raw. So don't eat seeds that are been toasted or any of that stuff, because that's going to destroy all the oils in them. You want to eat lots of nuts, like walnuts and almonds. They're rarely high in oil, but they have to be fresh, not roasted. And also you want to, right when you buy them, you want to start eating them. And I would recommend storing them in your refrigerator or in your freezer. Don't store them out in the open, because walnuts have a really good oil in them for your brain, but it denatures very quickly. So if it's out in your cupboard and you eat it like a few weeks later, chances are a lot of that oil is going to be gone already. So you want to make sure you're buying raw nuts. And the favorites are walnuts and almonds. Those are probably the two best nuts for your brain. Now, one of my favorite fruits is avocados. They have a lot of oleic acid, and it's a really fatty fruit, and it's great for your brain. It's a great brain booster. You can eat it every day. You can just eat it with just about anything. It's very flexible. So eat a lot of avocados. Now, the fifth food I recommend are leafy greens. Eat lots of vegetables in general and fresh vegetables. But in particular, you want leafy greens, and you want foods that are high in magnesium, like beans. Beans are really good, and most people are deficient in magnesium. Maybe like 70-80% of people are deficient in magnesium. So magnesium is really high in Brazil nuts. If you can add Brazil nuts to your repertoire of nuts that you're eating, make sure you're eating a lot of blueberries for flavonoids. I like to eat a lot of pinto beans. In fact, I read an interesting study recently that said 1 cup of cooked pinto beans has more antioxidants than 1 cup of blueberries. So blueberries are pretty expensive compared to pinto beans. I'd say they're probably 20 times more expensive. So if cash or money isn't an issue for you, you can focus on eating a lot of beans, and then when you're able to, add berries into your diet, since they tend to be a little more costlier. Now, when you're eating berries, I recommend buying frozen berries. Frozen berries, in my opinion, are better for you, unless you can buy fresh berries like at a farmer's market or something like that, because berries tend to break down really quickly, and then they actually become toxic for your body. So if you've ever seen like raspberries or and you've had them in your fridge for a couple of days, you look closely, they'll start growing a little mold on them. That mold is actually bad for your brain. The same thing with strawberries. So the same thing goes with strawberries and just about every other berries. Berries are really nutritious, but they're really sensitive and they don't last very long. So berries are made for you to buy and basically eat them the same day. Don't put them in your fridge and store them for a few days or they start to decay. They lose a lot of their beneficial properties and they can actually become toxic for you. When you look at them superficially, they'll look fine, but they'll start to grow mold on them. It's hard to see and it's bad for you. So in general, I like to avoid all that, and I buy berries once in a while and I'll eat them as I leave the market. So I eat them immediately, but I like to eat them every day, so I buy them frozen. So again, let me recap on those. Number one, you want to eat lots of seeds, fresh seeds, raw seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds. They have a lot of magnesium in them. Eat a lot of seeds, whatever seeds you can find. Sunflower seeds, sesame seeds. Number two, eat a lot of nuts, Brazil nuts, almonds, walnuts come to mind, fresh. Again, not raw, buy them all raw, and avoid cashews, because cashews actually they're probably one of the tastier nuts, but they have a skin on them. They have to be steamed to remove that skin, and in that process, they start to grow mold on them. So I generally try to avoid cashews. I eat almonds, walnuts, Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts are another really good one. They have a lot of oil in them. And again, eat them raw. So I'd recommend those 4 nuts. The third strategy you want to use again is oils. Olive oil, raw, avocado oil, coconut oil for cooking, and avoid all the other types of vegetable oils that are commercially sold in the market. Fourth strategy is lots of veggies, and they have to be raw veggies, uncooked, because remember, when you cook vegetables, you lose up to 99% of the nutrients. They get destroyed with heat. In general, humans cannot store vitamin C, period. So we need to eat things fresh every day to have vitamin C. Vitamin C is probably the most important nutrient that you need to boost your immune system and help with recovery and reconstruction of tissues. So if you've had a brain injury, you need to rebuild your brain. You're going to need a lot of vitamin C. So you want to make sure you're eating lots of fresh leafy green vegetables that are not cooked, so they have those nutrients for your brain. Number 4, eat a lot of fresh fruits. I like fruits that are low in sugar, low glycemic index, but you can eat a little bit of everything in moderation. Eat a lot of citrus fruits, oranges, lemons, grapefruits, so you're getting lots of vitamin C every day. Avoid fruit juices. Don't eat juices that's too much sugar for you. Unless you're drinking like lemon juice, which has a low glycemic index, it's not going to boost your insulin levels and cause problems. So you don't want that. Again, berries, all types of berries, eat them fresh. And if you can't eat them right away, buy them frozen. But pretty much all berries are great for your brain. It's going to cause a lot of benefits for your brain. It's going to help boost BDNF levels to help with neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. Now, with whole grains, avoid wheat. Wheat causes a lot of inflammation, probably in about 70-80% of people. When I say whole grains, I'm talking about quinoa, eat brown rice, oats, like oatmeal. You can eat stuff like that. That's good for your brain, good for your general health. Oatmeal has a lot of protein in it, but avoid things with sugar. Now, the 2 worst things to your brain during stroke recovery that I can think of off the top of my head, obviously alcohol, drugs, smoking, anything that's going to lower blood flow in your brain, like smoking. Smoking lowers the oxygenation of your body. So you want to avoid all that stuff. But in your diet, definitely want to avoid sugar, number 1. It's probably the worst. Sugar causes an inflammatory response in your brain. So it's going to cause a lot of inflammation in your brain. If the tissue is already damaged, it basically exacerbates the issues and makes it worse. So it's going to cause more damage, it's going to slow your recovery, and you're going to be losing out on that window of recovery. Now remember, when you have a stroke, from the day that your stroke happens, you have this window of recovery, and every day it closes. Now, the best time to heal is the first 6 months. That's the best. After that, it starts tapering off up until the first year. And even after that, you can still have some recovery, but it's going to be much more limited. So, especially those first 6 months to 1 year, you want to make sure that you're on your game. You're eating really good and you're maintaining the best diet you can, doing your exercise, doing your rehab. Try to build yourself back up as much as possible. So, avoid a lot of that sugar, avoid wheat, avoid alcohol, all the things that cause inflammation in your body. As for meats, eat as little as possible. If you have to eat meat, eat it sparingly. Remember, they recommend 4 ounces, basically like a hamburger patty that fits in the palm of your hand, every other day for ideal health. So a regular person should only eat 3 servings of meat a week. That's it. Anything beyond that is bad for your health. But if you're going through a brain injury, like a stroke, and you're in recovery, you definitely want to consider going on a plant-based diet. Like, I have people ask me, what about eating salmon? Well, salmon does have some benefits. It's really high in EPA and omega fatty acids, which are great. The thing is that most people don't eat salmon raw, they cook it. That cooking process destroys a lot of those oils. So I would probably, in my opinion, I'd probably even avoid salmon just because of the biological load it puts on your body. Remember, when you're healing, your body's focusing all its energy on healing whatever is damaged, that cut, that broken bone, or your damaged brain. So you want it to focus on that. When you're drinking alcohol or eating a big fat steak, your body has to divert resources to deal with that. So you're basically taking energy away from the healing process. A meat, whether it's pork, fish, beef, or pork, is going to cause that. It's going to divert the blood flow, and in my opinion, it's going to slow down your healing process. So in general, salmon or fish is a much better meat to eat than the other types of meat. But during stroke rehab, if you're someone that eats meat and you want to give that up, it's probably the best meat to eat. But if you can even cut that down, it's even better. If you can just focus on eating lots of high protein beans and other things, like your brain, and your brain can heal, and it's like your body doesn't have to do a lot of work to digest it. You want to let your body rest as much as possible so it can focus on healing the brain. And that goes for your digestion. If you're investing a lot of time digesting foods, again, it's going to take energy away from healing your brain. So thank you again for listening. And if you have any questions, please comment below. I'm happy to answer it from you. From Monument Valley, this is Attaboy Cowboy, and thank you for listening.